Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. I'm running for your Commander-in-Chief of Abbotsford after the organization of a criminal ring that took over our institutions in Abbotsford. Henry Braun was the mastermind of setting up an elite criminal ring, using the city's mayor seat to enrichinate himself, bring development his way, and take advantage of the funds coming in from the provincial and federal government. Henry Braun's son, Darren Braun, the economic development officer, under his dad, opened the door on how powerful his dad was, using our top of our APD, our MP's office, and Mike de Jong's office, rigging through the Chamber of Commerce, controlling the Abbotsford newspaper, to halt from the law and from Abbotsford residents. Darren Braun also went in to showing his brother or his uncle, Erwin Brown, on the police board. He showed Sandy Blue, he showed Mark Workentine. Darren Braun connected the dots, which Abbotsford residents need to understand. As Pierre Poliette said, the Mennonite M&Ms, the Mennonite mob was owning the town. Darren Braun showed how Henry Braun owed and controlled the MP Ed Fast and their ties. He connected that Devon Roy, Ed's son-in-law. He connected the Dreesen. He connected all their companies, and he connected Ron Funk of the Verse. He connected the lifts for lands. He connected how Henry was tied to Pam, how Pam's ex-husband, he connected it all. He connected Alex Mitchell. He connected it all. In this great country, Canada we live in, and the world we live in, is an international law. That international law is so countries respect each other. We have the same thing. We have that in our society. When politicians decide to take the law in their own hand for enriching themselves and attack residents, it's considered like breaking international law, using the police force to shut people up because they were controlling. It was a foregone conclusion that the Abbotsford police were under Henry's thumb when they weren't taking criminal reports, eyewitnesses, and putting it before the courts and the jury, because that way Henry would get sentenced, all books would get open and looked into. It is how far did Henry Braun tie himself up into the elites of the federal and provincial government. I showed you how he was tied to Pam, the former ag minister and MLA, and how she was doing stuff on Riverside and everything else. Darren Braun also opened the doors of how Henry went into Kevin Falcon and all this. He showed you Simon Gibson, in which I opened up, and city councils and everything. But Henry Braun just didn't stop there. When Henry Braun decided to take the law in his own hands, when he didn't know the RCMP and Mission were helping Abbotsford residents, he got in his Lexus car, left the city of Abbotsford, and proceeded to come where he was going to be exposed, and he couldn't have it in the general public because Vicky Hopes now got made with Ken and Tyler Olson that they couldn't control it down. And I knew with the RCMP that Henry didn't want this public because now everybody's in trouble. Henry came in his Lexus car, stood on the gas, and headed right at me. Knocked me flying, fled from the scene of the accident, and left me for dead. Abbotsford police were called, and you heard them. They weren't going to charge their elite mob boss. Henry was enriching himself, and I showed you from building the new police building what he could cry upon the sympathy of Abbotsford and everything else. There is no if, buts, or maybe. When Abbotsford conservatives, provincial and federal conservatives, elite conservative people that hold high positions in the federal conservatives went into Burnaby to Terry Beach's office on the threats and the manipulation in city council. They took this picture of Henry having the majority called Abbotsford First, which is Ross Siemens' team, passing decisions on Cooper's Farms, lifting lands and everything. It's collaborating. As long as they could control establishment in the Abbotsford APD, they were going to run roughshod. I want to thank today, before I go any further, Abbotsford owes a tremendous amount of people. We owe Darrell Plunkett, the former Speaker of the House, when he called out what Henry was doing in the city, the brutal attacks. We owe Terry Beach's office, as a conservative, we must state that. We owe him a tremendous thanks because it's one human being to another, and families and residents are not supposed to be taxed. We owe the former premier, we owe a lot of people a tremendous thanks. We owe John Rustad, the conservative. We owe Rianne Gasper, we owe Bruce Bamman, we owe a lot of people a tremendous thanks in Abbotsford because this is not supposed to take place. And we don't got to look at, well, we got to baby the Abbotsford police. They're a very central service. They were ripping this town off and threatening our residents, and Henry knew to hold it from the city, and he was the chair, and he was controlling it off. But when they decided not to cover and charge Henry, right there and then, it's got to be called out, and we need the best, the RCMP. Abbotsford owes one, and must state this every time. Abbotsford owes the tremendous amount of thanks to the Mission RCMP. With their knowledge and their wisdom, they made me run for mayor, not knowing that I was going to be targeted the way I was targeted, but it was to expose that Henry was controlling everything to load Ross Siemens. He controlled the electoral officer, Gabriel, and everything. But I want to connect the dots, that how they are. So today I want to put you a bigger one. When I ran for mayor, I told you that I would bring $100 million in on this piece of property. This is where David Eby, under the former MLA, Pam, and now Kelly Greene, are going to move the Ag Center from in the flats. A $500 million lift to here. I showed you what Jake's Contracting was doing on Barrowtown. We got $500 million coming into this facility. We built new pumps. We diked the dikes, and we're going to move it. Why are we going to move it? You got to look at what Carney said, trace the money. So you look at the next plot that Henry was doing after the Cooper's Farm, after the Cacaro Ranch and all this, you got to look at it. This is the next plot. You move the Ag Center here, you free up the land where the Ag Center is, and around that baseball diamond you build, and you never ever stop. These were, Henry was pointing this stuff like he did Ron Funk, changing the zoning from 200 to 400, and when it's in, it's hard. People can't get lawyers and they can't sue. I control most of the politicians when he blackjacked in the corner, and we saw that with Henry. We saw Simon Gibson crawl the other day into the conservative leadership race as a sitting council behind Eby's back, striking him. It wasn't just that Henry attacked me. He was also blacking candidates at the federal and provincial level that were running for the Liberals or the N.D.P to get what he wants. So why I'm here? We got a $500 million. We got Barrowtown that's got pumps now, and we're going to move it. We need that stricken off the table. We need $100 million that will go to the Mission Hospital immediately. We'll stop all this. I understand that this was a land swap between. Now I'm just connecting the dots between one of Henry's friends, and they were swapping land for the $500 million. We don't need to move it. It could sit there. Then we need $100 million that is automatic, direct out of the city's coffers to the Abbotsford farmers. We got to stop begging on Carney for flood money because we got this money to do this. And Carney will see that Mr. Pelican, Abbotsford residents are right. Stop moving the Ag Testing Center on eggs and animals, and you got the money now for Barrowtown, and we don't need that. And then we'll take another $100 million and we'll put it into the RCMP and bring them into Abbotsford, and we'll give the rest of it back. But we got to stop this. You could see the power move of Ross today, and every day he's with Kelly Greene. He flew to Ottawa. So let me understand something. I want to make it clear to you, because today I want all my Mennonite friends to see when a wrong's done, you got to call it out. And it's got to be called out. When you fly to Ottawa, you got to have an appointment to see the Prime Minister or the Deputy Prime Minister or people and thing. Ross didn't. It was a pressure move by Henry kicking him again. Get there, get there, get there. Show, take a few pictures and get a few pictures out. That's what we need, Ross. Ross went there, and all he did is looked at Ottawa, and he didn't do nothing. It was a bloody joke. He had no appointments. He had nothing. We saw that Alex Mitchell flew out there with Brad Viss, and we saw the whole thing. It was a pressure move. Carney could see. There's $500 million from the N.D.P on a wasted building and a facility that's probably going to enrich and hate their friends and kickbacks. And we got to look which contractor was going to get this, who was bidding it, and now we secured the pumps and everything. But I also will tell you this on that Ag Testing Center down by that baseball diamond is in that flats. What we all will do is for $50,000 to protect it if we're worried about another incompetent flood by Ross Siemens and Henry Braun's people and engineers, we will sandbag it for $50,000. We'll sandbag that to protect it for $50,000. And then what we'll do is we'll get high definition cameras put on it to see who's stealing them sandbags like we did at Barrowtown and who's stealing the gravel. I will call on my BC Conservatives in 1BC, and I will call on David Eby immediately to strip the $500 million in all money to the ag processing plant that was going to be moved. It's a land swap. If we move it up there, we can't build on ALR land. We got too much fighting going on and we can't get it for housing. So what we'll do is we'll get the provincial government to put their ag and their processing plant here, and then we'll free up that land and we'll take it. The same stuff Henry did with Ron Funk down at the newspaper. And this is what he was doing. When Henry Braun decided to get in the car and end my life, flee from the scene of the accident, use his friends in the Abbotsford police, I could have told him right there and it's game over. It brought politicians in everywhere. And then use the Abbotsford police top to cover up criminal reports, do investigations, go talk to witnesses, pull cameras and everything. The top of the APD were owned by establishment and a mob. In Colin Watts' own effing words, he said it the other day, my team, my poor little bloody team, my team. The problem with his team is their residents, the team lives here. They got to be Henry's friend. They got under his thumb. They didn't respect the duty. They didn't respect residents. And you could see them, they were out of control. When they knew that I went to the world stage, you saw them a couple of weeks ago again on Sunday, pull me over, yank me from that car, all them officers lined up and accused me of heavily intoxicated, and they had another eyewitness from the bar. Colin Watts went and packed this shit. Oh, the company. I'm a leading politician with other politicians to fight for my residents and to fight for my community. I'll walk through the Abbotsford police and I'll tear it up. I'll go through it faster than when Henry packed his shit and ran from the flood. Carney said it the best. Trace the money and you can find everybody. Just follow that money. You'll find the organized crime. You'll find everything. And you can see Henry telling Ross to push on Kelly Greene. To Kelly Greene, take the $500 million out of the ag center. It's secured now. You can sandbag it. You can do everything and read it because it's land swaps. We're going to go through the most sacred thing in the city and we're going to forensic audit everything. We're going to find out why 3,000 people at Cooper's Farm got told to stick it up their backside. Why Henry blamed Peter Sparanese. We're going to make sure if them sandbags go missing, the first guy we know that steals, that goes out and steals and justifiers is Gabriel when he went on private property and took all my signs and everything. And we know that. We have so many eyes through Abbotsford, nobody can move sideways. And we know one thing, that the federal government has watched Mr. Pelican and so has the provincial government. And they know Mr. Pelican is dead on because that is why the heat is on the Abbotsford police. That is why they target me. That is why they come at me. That is why they chase you. They know when they're going to get exposed and they're caught, they got only one reason, to bully you, intimidate you, because they're all going to go down. This criminal ring was set up and controlled by Henry Braun. It was the RCMP that knew a mission. By God's sakes, Mr. Pelican, he wants that seat so bad. He's going to load Ross Siemens by blocking you. That is 100%. So we need you to call the election to show that Ross is going to get in with Abbotsford first, to keep all the community plan, everything for Ron Funk and everything. And we don't want you to do nothing, Mr. Pelican. We want you to announce it. We want to see Vicky Hopes block it. We want to see the Gabriel electoral officer take the by-election list, the electoral list, not allow you in debate with the Chamber of Commerce. We know the play and we can look for the play. But Abbotsford Police Chief and his great team that caused nothing but trouble here, and his men, please, we got a service to Abbotsford. We're about this community. We care about this community. Oh, unless we charges don't go forward. Look at the little shithole team running around Abbotsford caught. It allowed a vicious attack that shouldn't have taken place on my South Asian, Councillor Mogill with the task force. That's how bad Henry wanted it. Then it used it on me, and they used the sympathy that we're in police uniform, you can't attack me. Great politicians advised me to call the mayorship and expose it all on the world's social media of everything they were doing to rip Colin Watts apart. And you saw Mike Sears flee. You saw the brutal attack time after time after time. You saw him smash my camera and everything. To Kelly Greene, I would tell you this. Abbotsford residents and everybody have eyes and ears everywhere on the ground. And it would have been a foregone conclusion when Henry Braun, Ed Fast, Mike de Jong, Black for the Conservatives that was in to get the Ian Black to get the leadership with Ed Fast and Simon Gibson went behind Evie's back to support and give Ian Black help. Was it that? That wasn't help for Ian Black. I believe it was to split the Conservatives, weaken the Conservatives, and they say, Evie, now you need to run. And as a premier and as a political party, when mayor and council back another candidate, you got to strap them from everything, and you got to punish them, and you got to pull it all off the table. $500 million, and you went to Carney for money. You could sandbag that. You could protect that, and now we know we got brand new pumps coming in. We got Jake's ripping off left, right, and center. We're going to financial audit that. Let me make something clear. Bob Rich went after the woman that wouldn't turn her leg up for Bob and made her pay it all back because it was fraud on Abbotsford taxpayers off that police board. There's a saying in Abbotsford, and it's going through the city. Women come and go, but buddies are forever. Scoop for a group and bend for a friend. We're going to go back, and we're going to forensic audit. We're going to put it before our courts, and we're going to hammer her down so bloody tight that Henry Braun is going to get his day in court, and he's going to get it front and center. There's also another rumor going around Abbotsford. Henry Braun's liquidating his assets. You saw the Cash Creek Ranch he sold off. He was dumbfounded. A man that owns a farm, and he was dumbfounded that it just sold. There's also a rumor that Mike de Jong might have set up that thing with the First Nations. We're going to put a stop to it. We got a $300,000 that the Abbotsford police want for artwork. Are they going to use the First Nations and say we're going to use that for artwork? We're going to put a stop to it. We need leadership, but the one first thing we're going to put a stop to it, as anybody coming to residents or families or voters and threatening them and not doing what's right. We're going to put a stop to it. We're going to put transparency back. We're going to put the city back under the microscope, and we're going to financial audit everything. And I'm going to tell you, we're going to rip Ross Siemens apart. And it was a foregone conclusion, ladies and gentlemen. When the RCMP saw Jake Siemens, Ross's dad, come and sit with me and have lunch, they knew you targeted that man, Ross Siemens, for his despicable act that he did with Abbotsford First and Sandy Blue, saying you grabbed her up to dress on the ripper rapper so they could get you out of the debates. You beat down on that man, that he's Henry's little bitch, and you went after him, and his dad sat with you. His dad knew how far that he went in for Henry Braun and what he was doing. He ordered a threat on somebody's life. He left you for dead. Then he used the Abbotsford police through the election. Henry just thought he was smart. Money and my politician friends. This is what got him caught, because nobody was telling him, Henry, you're out of line. You're out of line. You got to face these charges. You got to go before the courts. What would have put him in check not to pull all this off. So then my Premier David Eby, would you not think the $500 million for moving the centre, which Kelly Greene can't stop hanging in Abbotsford, because it's not. It's like Carney said. It's about this. There's more than enough money in this to fix the floods, to help the farmers, and take $100 million back to the N.D.P and get ready for the election, because between One BC and the BC Conservatives and what you're being pounded, it's not. Or we're going to go a little further into depth, and we're going to keep coming up that ladder till we get it. I'm live here, Abbotsford, British Columbia, Abbotsford residents.